Hey, um, my name is Josh, and I just had a nervous breakdown. And I think I would like to talk about it because it would help in my healing process. So I figured I would tell you what happened, how it happened, why it happened, and then what happened after. So basically, I mean, if you're watching this video, you probably have seen some of my other videos. You might have an idea of my life. I mean, and it has included certain trips, traveling. It's included living in my car. You know, I have lived transiently for years. This is my new place. I'm in a new place. And it's not without its challenges. And so, and a lot of challenges. I almost moved out the first month I was here. It's, anyways, and every other place that I've been has been pretty challenging as well. I mean, yeah, there's been nothing easy about any step. I've had some falling outs with friends. I had a friend attack me recently, not physically, but verbally, and it was pretty horrible. Um, I got attacked. I'm a yoga teacher. I just got certified. It was pretty awesome. But I was teaching a class, and this guy, he kept coming to class, and just kept giving me a hard time. And one time he made a point of, he made a huge scene in one of my classes, and he told me in front of all my students, he's like, you have no business teaching yoga, and on and on and on. So that was, it took a bit to get over, right? And did I learn something from it? Yeah, of course. But did I completely get over it? Well, I guess not, right? I mean, just like lots of things, like to do with relationships, with friends, with girlfriends, with things that happen with family, it's been challenging. And then with work and just feeling, I've been, I feel like I've been really disrespected, and it's been challenging. And all these things have added up, and then moving into a new place, and getting on my feet, and it's great. I feel like, I would tell people, don't ever rent a room. It's worse than living in a car, because you're stuck in somebody's house, and it's just like, yeah, what a horrible thing. Yeah, and it's all self-imposed, right? I mean, like, and so this is the thing. I go through all this stuff and wah cry, right? We all have our struggles, but mine are my own. And like, so I came to recognize, I stopped making videos a while ago because I just had too much on my plate. I couldn't give my time and energy to making videos, because I don't get anything out of it. At least that was the idea, but it's not true, because somebody said to me today, it's like, if you need, like, as therapy, write. And I was like, I used to always write, and I used to make videos, and it was therapy for me, but then I stopped because I had other things that I needed to focus my attention on. And I had other reasons for not wanting to make videos either. I went through a bout of sickness, and when I looked in the mirror, I didn't like what I saw. And so I wasn't going to go on camera and parade myself around and blah blah about all kinds of stuff, because I didn't feel good about the way I looked, which is representative of my health. And so, and despite trying to do everything right, and getting, yeah, doing everything that I can to figure out how to dial in my diet and to do this, making changes, going to the gym and this and that, toning this down, embracing this, all this kind of stuff, right? And it's frustrating. And so I've been frustrated with work, with friends, with family, with feeling lonely, with feeling disrespected, just, yeah, with women, just all of the above. It's been challenging. And so, and then with yoga, with work, I just have so much on my plate, and I know that I do it to myself, but I don't know how to stop because yeah, I'm taking a bunch of courses. I'm basically going to school to become a musician, but it's like, and it takes a lot to do that. And so it's like I'm exhausted, I'm drained, I'm upset, I'm hurt, I'm frustrated. And when I looked in the mirror, and I mean like physically, not like, metaphorically, it's just like, wow, I look tired. I look exhausted. I don't look healthy, despite everything that I'm doing. I mean, I have ups and I have downs, but it's just like, it seems like there's more downs than ups. And it's hard to put your finger on what it is that is contributing to these different things, right? And so, in recognizing that I feel like over the last few years of my life, I have undergone an amount of trauma, self-imposed, essentially, right? I mean, we all make our own bed. I don't, I'm not, you can't point, I don't point fingers at anybody else, but regardless, the way that my cookie crumbled, despite all of my best efforts, it's been very challenging. It's just been heartache after challenge, after disruption, after difficulty, and it, for lack of a better word, has sucked. And so, in finally moving into a new place and getting caught up on all of this stuff, but also recognizing that what I had been through, I have, even though I've learned from it and done my best to let a lot of it go, I get the impression, or I got the impression that there was some residual, because I'm reading this book right now called Letting Go. And, it talks about stuff. It's by David R. Hawkins, and it talks about things like, how you can really tell whether or not you've let go of something or not. And, you can sit there and think about it, and it's like, okay, yeah, I guess I still have some work to do, right? But it's hard sometimes to flesh these things out, to bring it to the surface. You have to be very honest, and you have to do deep self-investigation. And but even at that, it's still quite difficult to know what is ingrained in your psyche, which is affecting your attitudes and behaviors. But when you notice that you're exhausted, you can see it in your face, you can tell that you're low on energy, you notice that you're stressed, you can tell that you're edgy, and then and things like being defensive. It's not coming from nowhere. It's not coming from a place of being peaceful and happy and just feeling loved and needed and worthy and all that kind of stuff, right? And so in recognizing that, I do know a way to deal with that. So I have become a yogi over the years. And so my way is meditation. But before, and philosophy and psychology, and that's all great. But it's still, we have blind spots and things, repressed and suppressed emotions, things, thoughts, feelings, whatever you want to call it, stuff that's going on inside, inner turmoil, and it can be quite challenging to put your finger on and then just deal with it magically and be like, and then just let it go and be healed and grateful and whatnot. It's hard to move on. We get stuck. We get attached to negative emotions and stuff like that. We can. And I have, and I did. And so basically, before I walked this path of yoga, I walked the path of plant medicine. And so I know for a fact that I can work with certain plant medicines, entheogenic substances like psilocybin mushrooms and like ayahuasca and like mescaline from peyote cactuses and whatnot. And you can work with these plant teachers, and they can help to bring to the surface that which you can't do on your own. Bringing stuff to your awareness so that you can process it, so you can express it and process it, right? And so I, in recognizing that I needed help, I was sick on the inside. My mental and emotional and physical well-being, I was suffering, and I can't continue in life like that. It's not healthy, especially if you know how you can essentially address it. And so I essentially orchestrated a time when I could take a moment to work with some medicine. And I did. I was given a day off, and I took the opportunity. I was ready. And then I worked with a medicine known as psilohuasca, which is psilocybin mushrooms coupled with a monoamine oxidase inhibitor such as Syrian rue, which essentially activates the chemical constituents that are available within these psilocybin mushrooms. So the psilocybin, it essentially enhances the bioavailability of these compounds, but it also activates the dimethyltryptamine compound which is in there. So that's why it's psilohuasca. And so it is a very powerful, potent way to open up some of these sort of wounds that are inside, and allow them to, essentially go through a process which will hopefully result in healing. And so I did this, and I've done it before. And the thing is, so I took this medicine before the sun came up, and like here in my home. And I basically went through a process where, like, what do you think it looks like when all of your negativity that you've been holding on to, all of your repressed emotions, everything that it makes you sad and lonely, that has troubled you, like your whole life, and it's just, and like, what do you think it looks like when it comes to the surface? It's not like it's just like, oh, hey, here it is. This is just fine, and it's easy, and yeah, ain't no thing, because it is. Especially if you know that, if you can tell by the fact that you're exhibiting behaviors that are representative of somebody who has a lot going on inside that is repressed and suppressed and inner turmoil and whatnot. And so when this came out, it came out in a very pronounced way. It didn't just slowly come to the surface. It came out in an explosion. I had a nervous breakdown. Because I had to deal with all of this stuff, I became aware of it all, and I started sorting through my emotions and saying things and feeling things and coming to realizations about things. And I'm not saying it was bad. It wasn't scary, but it was a big deal. I made a scene. I screamed at the top of my lungs. The neighbors heard me. You know, I howled like a wolf. You know, I screamed like a banshee. I spoke very loudly about all kinds of stuff that really pissed me off. And I had an episode of, not holding back because I needed to let go. And it was a big deal. And it went through a few phases, that the intense part of it lasted a number of hours where I was not hooting and hollering, but I was letting it out, and I was saying things and about a variety of things, everything that I was upset about, and then, but in a very coherent, logical way. I mean, like, not like somebody who'd lost their mind, but like somebody who is processing a lot of deep stuff. And you have to remember, this is me, right? Which is a person who is, fairly well learned. I'm not, I'm speaking about like everything that's coming up. It is, and coming out, it is of a psychological, philosophical, spiritual nature. It is using every bit of knowledge and awareness that I have within me to essentially flesh out and process and organize my thoughts and feelings and stuff like that into something coherent so that I can get it out, express it, and then move beyond it. Because, like I said, I just couldn't continue anymore. And so I did this, and I made a ruckus, and then after a while I started calling people because I needed to talk. I didn't need to yell anymore. And so I called family members. I called all of my friends. Nobody picked up their phones. And then I called my sister. I called everybody repeatedly because I needed some help. And I talked with people, and I said things. And some of the things that I said were very beautiful and nice. I apologized for every time I'd ever been rude to certain people, and just like, said, hey, I'm, from the bottom of my heart. And it was really sweet, but I also said some other things that, because in an altered state like that, for myself, when I'm tapped in, when I'm working with a plant medicine that I feel connected to everything. I can just tap into a source of knowledge and just speak at length about anything with clarity and precision, right? And so, but also, like, there's no inhibition at that point. So there's no reservation, like not holding back. It's just like I have this vision and I can see it and I know that it's possible, and then I talk about it like it's like I'm gonna essentially do it tomorrow, right? I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And but I was honest with everybody who I was talking to about where I was at and what I was going through and why I was calling them and how things were unfolding. And and it was good to connect with my sister, with my cousin, with my aunt, with my father. But And it was what I needed. On the one hand, mission accomplished, because I needed to do that. I didn't know how else to do it. I ended up getting served a formal noise complaint warning from my landlord, which said, like, if that ever happens again, you have to leave. And and so the thing is, eventually I get to sleep. The next morning, and then you start to realize what you did. And the mess that I made. And then you need to do damage control. Basically meaning reach out to all of those who you contacted and who your outburst affected, and do your best to essentially explain yourself. And the best way that I could, without going into too much detail, was just to say, I had a nervous breakdown. I had a meltdown. I broke down because I was broken. And, I know I'm not the only person to ever break down, of course. It's normal to have stress mount up and lead to an experience such as that. I had a self-induced nervous breakdown. And then the challenging thing is, like, so even though it was very enlightening and there was a lot of beauty that came from it, the next day in damage control, it's like there's like a guilt and a shame because you kind of made an ass out of yourself. Or not kind of, you did. Because if you said certain things that were a bit outlandish, it's embarrassing. But like a big part of what I was doing was trying to let go of resentment and hatred and anger and frustration. And I was also trying to get over being concerned about what other people think about me. But then there was also this thing about what I think about myself. And there was something that came to the surface that was surprising. There was, because, when it's just flowing out of you, no holds barred, you're not really up here. It's coming out of here. It's coming out of, I don't know, it's coming out of the inside, but you're not thinking about it. It's just like, it's just flowing. And there was times when I said the words many times out loud that I hate myself, that I hate being me. I'm sick of it, because, and just mean, I love who I love who I am, but I hate being me. Just because of how the things that I involve myself in, the things that I get myself into, a lot of it blows up in my face. I mean, the things, I push a lot of people away. I have pushed a lot of people away. I've had a lot of failed relationships, and it's like, I know that I can be quite difficult. I know that in the past I've been mean, I've been rude. I've tried to push my opinions on other people. And it's unpalatable. I don't like it when people do it to me. I've been argumentative. I'm a human being, but for me, the issue is that I have a bit of an intellectual side to me, and so that argumentativeness can be quite forceful, right? It's a little different when you have the tools to really drive certain things home, and like, anyways, like, and just, there's times when it's like I just want my life to be easy. I wish I could just be, more normal, more friendly, more likable, a little less me. And it's weird because it's like having that come up, it's just like I hate who I am. I hate being me. And like the point of this, saying this, is like, because if you think about it, it's like, so you can love yourself and hate yourself at the same time, I believe. But if you want to truly love yourself, like you have to at some point let go of the hate, of the guilt and the shame and the frustration with being yourself, of when you look in the mirror and it's just like, this is who I am, this is what I've amounted to, this is what I've gotten caught up with, this is what I do, this is the bed that I've made for myself, this is how my cookies crumbled, and just accept it all. And it's like, I came to this kind of realization that it's like, and it's something that I know, but the point is, it's like, you can't move past where you are if you're holding on to where you were. You can't get to where you need to go if you're stuck where you are. And you can't move forward if you don't let go of the things that are holding you back. And that is things like hating yourself on a level, not ultimately, but at all, it's not healthy. And the thing is, with this kind of stuff, it's like, with baggage, you can't let go of what you don't own. If you think in terms of like luggage, if it's not your luggage, you're not going to deal with it because it's not yours. You have to take ownership of it. It's the only way, because then when you open up your bag and you inspect the contents, then you know that all of those things are there by your own doing. So it's tricky. You have to be very honest with yourself, and you have to, take ownership of this type of baggage and say, I guess I do feel this way. Despite, there's a part of me that doesn't want to admit it. But what good does that do? I'm looking to move forward. I'm looking to heal. I'm looking to get past this this stage of my life where I am loathing, because it is draining. It's taking my energy, and it's making me agitated, and I overreact, and I get depressed, and it's like, okay, this can't continue, right? And so I in recognizing this, it's like, okay, I need to stop doing that, because it's like, I am awesome, and I know that I'm awesome, but I can't be truly awesome if I'm also going around hating myself. Because what's really tricky about this, and it is that if you do, you know, your own worth, you you essentially treat others according to your own worth. So it's like if you don't really love yourself, if you don't really value yourself, if you are depreciating yourself, if you're beating yourself up, if you're beating yourself down, if you're saying that, you know, if you look at yourself in the mirror, like physically, and say, and you're not happy, you know, like that, when you harbor negative feelings about yourself, you then project that onto others. It comes out unconsciously or subconsciously, and it sucks because then you know it is the defensiveness, and it is the just the not it's the lack of compassion because you don't have compassion for yourself. You know, you're not loving yourself, and how can you love someone else if you don't love yourself? Because it all starts within. This is where it all comes from. And so, you know, very very challenging, but I mean but yeah, and so that came up, and I recognized it and have been working with that. I mean, and I think the most important thing is, like I said, to own it. You have to acknowledge it. You have to recognize it, acknowledge it, own it, and then you can let it go. Luckily, I'm aware of that formula. I do know how to work through these things. I was just shocked that it was there to begin with. And so, yeah, so anyways, moving forward, you know, it's like the next day, and then I write to people and say, hey, yeah, I had a meltdown. You know, I had you know, like a thermonuclear, you know, meltdown, but which is good because it's weird how sometimes you have to be broken in order to pick yourself up and put yourself back together. Sometimes you need to get lost in order to find yourself. Why? I don't know. I'm not saying everybody does, but it has certainly been a part of my process over the years. And like it or not, that's just been how it is. And so, and I'm getting better, of course, right? Like this wasn't an existential crisis. It wasn't that. You know, it wasn't a dark night of the soul. It was something else, you know, and this was a nervous breakdown. And, you know, and part of it is because I have been catching up and I don't allow a moment of rest. I had the day off today, and you know what I did? I made a list of like 10 things, and I rushed all over town doing these things, and because they need to be done, and I don't know how to not do what I know needs to be done. But when it's taken its toll on your health, I went to the States. I had some business down there. I mean, and so, but then I was talking to this lady after yoga, and she was talking about the nervous system because I had to share with them. I was like, look, I'm not my normal self right now. I'm, this happened, you know, and I just said, like, you know, and it's okay. You know, it's not something that you have to be ashamed of, that stress got to you, that you didn't know how to process everything just like that. You know, it's hard. And yeah, I mean, of course didn't share all of the details because it wasn't appropriate and it's a yoga class, but I did speak, you know, for a moment about why my energy is a little bit different at the moment. And so, yeah, it was really tough the next day. And even today, because it's 2 days ago now, just to forgive myself for having an episode, you know, and involving other people and making a scene. I was embarrassed. There's people I don't want to see because of what happened. Even though nothing bad happens and people recognize that these things happen, and especially under the influence. I didn't hide any of that. But yeah, it's been a process, and like I said, I reached out to people and I let them know that I'm feeling a lot better. And something that was nice that happened afterwards. So like I couldn't sleep. I didn't eat anything for a couple of days. I didn't eat anything for that day. Then the next day I just lied in bed and felt terrible and just felt so ashamed. But also felt good because I knew I got it out. So I don't know, it's like a catch-22, right? But all that aside, I eventually maybe like 5 o'clock in the evening, and it was like, it's starting to get dark here, and then I did nod off for a moment. And in that moment, I had a dream where I was in a room, and in the corner of the room, there was like a book sitting on a shelf. And on that book, there was a butterfly that had really long wings, and they were rainbow colored. And so like when I'm on medicine, I see geometric images constantly interlaced, overlaced, with everything else. Eyes open, eyes closed. Things like the Sri Yantra, and to do with like pentagonal, like pentagrams and things, but very colorful, very vivid images, geometric images. And so I saw it and I was like, wow, that is something to see. And then so I'm in my dream, and I grab my phone and I try to take a picture of it because it's just like, that is mind-blowing. But like technology doesn't exactly work in a dream. And then I stop trying that, and then I look again, and then to the right I see a moth, a large moth sitting there. And it's a bit freaky, because they have a look about them, and it's just like, I don't know, just like, like people are scared of spiders and snakes and stuff like that. But like a big moth, it was just like, holy smokes, because it's like, what if it flies over and lands on your face or something like that, right? So it was scary. And then I back up, and then I look down on the ground, and there's a turtle. And then the turtle, it was almost like a prehistoric turtle, and it had like little spikes around the outside of its shell, and then it sprouts wings and then starts to fly and kind of doing one of these, and this is in a dream. And then, I wake up and was just like, whoa, okay, because it's symbolism, right? And so I wrote a poem about it. I'm not going to read it right now. It's too long, but I mean, the butterfly is a symbol of transformation. The rainbow is, and a butterfly, they're both symbols of beauty. And a rainbow can be interpreted in different ways. It's light, it's the spectrum. Maybe the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I don't know. There's different ways of looking at it. the moth is a thing that exists, a lot of the time in darkness and travels towards the light. It is something that is on a journey towards light, it is drawn towards light. And so these, to me, these are powerful symbols. And then, like, even the turtle, we're talking, like, it's like prehistoric turtle, almost like dinosaur turtle, but that grows wings. And if you think about what a turtle is about, they're an animal that is known for being slow, but also winning the race. Slow and steady wins the race is, the story, the tortoise and the hare. And so, but then growing wings, sprouting wings, and learning to fly, so essentially gaining an ability to make more progress, and so thinking about it all, it's just like, am I that turtle? Am I the moth? Am I the what do you call it, the butterfly? Anyways, like, and so that was good. It brought me a bit of solace. I felt better afterwards, slightly less embarrassed. Yeah, and then I've just been getting through the last couple of days. I started eating again and just trying to relax, and I haven't been able to take up any of my. I've just needed to not do anything too intense for the last couple of days, and just allow myself to process, because there's something that they say is that the healing comes after the ceremony. And so really honoring that, and not, getting involved in anything or caught up in anything or do anything that will take me away from this opportunity to continue this process of processing and healing and getting better. And yeah, all I can say is that I feel better, and that I think I'm ready to continue, which is a good thing. And that's why I'm making this video. I think I'm ready to start doing this again, because just regardless of who watches them, I recognize that it could be of service to some person, even if that's one person who needs to hear it. I need to say it, and I need to have these outlets, which allows me to express myself. It's something that Lao Tzu says in the Tao Te Ching. If you want something to go away, allow itself to express itself fully first, and then just remain silent. And yeah, so I guess, that being said, I'm going to I've made a bunch of videos over the last, say, 6 months, but I didn't release any of them because I just didn't feel right about it. But I'll probably release them, and then I'm going to make some more. So yeah, yeah, that's my story.